The following movie is rated R.
Welcome back to the R-Rated Podcast. Today I have some exciting updates. Not only did I get a job, but before we get to that, do I have to explain a lot of different things that I had to go through to get to that step. I mean, I was working, but I was freelancing, so it was a little bit different than having your standard 9 to 5. For anyone who doesn't really know what the whole freelancing and the film industry is like, I'm gonna give you a rundown. I expected after graduating to kind of have that like typical 9 to 5 job where I would be, clocking in and out, ideally at a studio, somewhere around the area, somewhere close to where I went to school. Here. Somewhere close to where I went to school. I went to school in Burbank, so a lot of the studios are around this area. So I basically was like, okay, I'm familiar with this area. I go to school here. I've been doing projects around here. So this is kind of where I think I'm going to end up after school. And since things ended a little weird because of COVID, everything just changed and shifted. I feel like if it wasn't for COVID right now, my job wouldn't even exist. So it's weird to say, but if COVID wasn't a thing, I wouldn't have my job right now. So it's a weird way to look at it because COVID has restricted us from so many things, especially in the film industry. But then now it's giving me a job, right? So it's really weird how this works. But I'm going to fill you guys in on how it all started. So basically, after I graduated, I was like, okay, I really need to find a job. I think I was enjoying the idea of being done with school and just kind of being done, really not having to worry about any classes, any homework for a really long time. Ever, actually. What am I saying? So I was like, I'm gonna enjoy this. I kind of enjoyed it a little long. I'm not gonna lie. I graduated in May and then July came around and I was wanting to travel and I was excited. And then August came around and it was my birthday, and Leos like to celebrate their birthday a whole month. So next thing you know, I'm still not really looking actively looking for a job. And then basically summer's over and things started to get worse. Things were very back and forth, closing, not closing, red zone, not red zone. So a lot was going on. But I started working on smaller sets starting in January. So basically that whole year of 2020 from when I graduated, so May 2020, because COVID hit in the middle of my right before I was going to graduate. So basically COVID hit in March, or technically February. It hit in March, February. Everybody was on lockdown and you kind of just had to enjoy the circumstances, make the best of it. Even if it was staying at home. And I'm not going to lie, I really got comfortable being a homebody. It's weird to say out loud because I've always been very outgoing, very, excited to go out, meet my friends, do some new stuff, travel, go to concerts. But, when COVID hit, it really put things into perspective and it made things very, I don't know. I just almost became a germaphobe and was scared of touching surfaces and really going out there because of just how scary it seemed. But now that we're used to it and kind of have adapted around it, I don't feel that fear anymore. So once I started working on smaller productions, once things had gotten a little bit more organized and in control with the whole COVID situation, that was very on and off. It was, now I consider myself a freelancer. I had made a resume, but it was only for freelancing. I really didn't have applying to a studio in mind anymore, especially towards the end of 2020, just because of how crazy everything was, COVID, how everything really got shut down. At first I was really in denial that everything could be so shut down, but then, we literally saw everything close and things were not opening anytime soon. And they really, we were really having to adapt and figure out what the future of the film industry was going to be like. So now we know that before you go on set, they require a COVID test. I think you have to get tested like the max is like 3 days before, so like within 3 days before the shoot. Um, and then you usually send it to a COVID compliance officer. Usually the production has that now, since each set doesn't want to get sued for anyone getting COVID on their set, especially after you're dealing with big clients, big money, big productions. In that case, people are very like, okay, we have to have a COVID compliance officer on set that's like walking around and making sure that people are really sticking to keeping their mask over their nose. I know it gets hot, especially like in the summer here in Cali. It's been like 98 degrees and it gets hot. So I get why, people want to pull the mask down really quick. But see, any little bit of that can help spread it. So it helps having that one person wandering the set being like, hey, don't forget, like put your mask up. So basically, once the set started doing that, I started working on more and more sets. I wasn't directing though. I obviously wanted to, I mean, my end goal is writing and directing, right? Like if I could do that on every set, that's what I would want to do. But you usually don't graduate and walk onto a set, or a big set at least, and start, directing the shoot. It kind of takes years of experience, so they say. On all the, big studio websites, it says like, you want 30 years of experience, you want 10 years of this and these clients. And so you definitely have to build your portfolio or have the connections. And remember, I wasn't able to make these connections because COVID happened. So there's no events happening. Film festivals are limited. Like, film festivals are not even happening. So I wasn't really able to have that opportunity of networking with people in the industry like I would have liked. So I was like, okay, how can I still stay active? I mean, obviously you have to just keep working on sets. It's not what you're necessarily used to, but if this is the new normal, you got to do it, right? So I started to, look around on Craigslist. It sounds funny, but honestly, like Craigslist, you get random people who last minute need, crew members, or I feel like it was just a little easier to get gigs on Craigslist to build that portfolio. But then things started rolling again. I would say like honestly like February, no, like March, April, and May, it started getting busy again now, 2021. It was so normal to get tested for every shoot that it became standard. Like to me, it doesn't bother me at all if like you ask me like, oh, please get COVID tested for the shoot. I'm like, whatever. Like it's so second nature to me now that it like I don't even think about it, to be honest. So I started doing a lot of wardrobe gigs. That's kind of like what pays the bills for me. Which it's so much fun. I love putting clothes together. I love reading the scripts, analyzing what outfit goes with what character, like what color palette, like would it fit, different clothing shows different emotions. It might be a symbol, it might be foreshadowing like what's gonna happen to this character in the end of the movie, the next scene, or whatever it may be. So it's cool to really like tap into the wardrobe industry and kind of mix and match. And like I do enjoy shopping and having cute clothes myself. So sometimes I throw in my own clothes, my own style, my own opinion. I try to stay with the trends. Like shoot after shoot, I was doing wardrobe. I was like, okay, like this is like maybe how I'm gonna be paying the bills after school. But what really like was, I don't know, I'm just someone that needs a steady income, or it was a little risky just freelancing and not really knowing when the next paycheck was going to come in. And it sucks that you have to think like that, because especially when you're a creative, artist or in the film industry, you want to just think like, oh, the art, like how can this be like creative and artistic? But you also have to pay your bills, right? So at the end of the day, you have to think, how is my time, being valued in this situation? I was getting a little worried because I was like, rent in LA is expensive. I can't really live off, just doing freelance gigs here and there and trying to see what works, what doesn't. I needed something a little bit more steady, but like I said, it wasn't that easy to just get this job. So in the meantime, I'm getting these like freelance gigs on and off, like let's say every month. It would vary. Like some months it'd be super busy. And for example, I'd be fully booked out for the month and just be like super like, oh, I'm tired. Like I can't even like look for a job because I'm on set and I'm busy. And that was really what was going on. And then there'll be like another month where literally nothing's going on and you feel like a bag of potatoes just laying there like, I'm useless, you know? So it was just such a like roller coaster of emotions, and like I wasn't used to that, especially coming from the New York Film Academy where you had such a set schedule every single freaking semester. Like I knew what every single day of my life was gonna look like for 3 full years. So going from that to not having any schedule at all, I was like, what's happening? I need stability. So basically, that's when I started becoming more frustrated. And it was weird because I was like frustrated mixed with like determination. Not too much longer after that, after feeling all these different emotions and being frustrated and not really understanding like what I want to do. So one of my friends ended up contacting me not too long after I was like literally losing my freaking mind. And he was talking to me about, you know, his project and how it was based off a comic and how he really wanted it to come to life, and it was about a blind superhero. And I was just very intrigued by that because not only, you know, after this whole like COVID thing have I not been thinking, hearing anything about like directing. Everything was just like on pause. I was like, I don't even know like when I'll ever be able to direct again. So just like being able to hear these words and like have these conversations, I was like, oh my God, like could this be a real possibility of like, you know, directing something in the near future, especially like during COVID? Um, and not gonna lie, it was a little rocky at first. It did not work as easy as I thought. In the beginning, it took like a solid, like, honestly, I would say it almost took a full year to execute. Like we tried to like, we're like maybe we can like make it happen by the end of the year, but then things got just so bad by the end of 2020 that it was just so like it was not going to happen. It was just like, okay, there's no point even trying to like plan this because we don't even know if we're going to be able to like go to grocery stores, you know, like basic stuff like that. So it was like, how can we plan a production when we don't even know if we're going to be able to do basic stuff? So before all that, we kind of put the project on hold. So then when things started kind of, you know, opening up again and productions were back on track and, you know, people were getting COVID tests and they kind of had a whole system going, we got together, we talked about the project again and kind of, you know, discussed like, okay, is this something we can realistically do? If we do it, what's the vision? How are we going to do it? You know, trying to discuss like where we would film it. Would we film it in LA? Would we film where he's from, back in the Bay Area? Um, Essentially, it's always cheaper to shoot anywhere besides LA. So I was like, maybe it's better to shoot in San Francisco, San Jose. We wanted to be authentic to who she really was and bring it out in the script. So it was really important that we got those key elements in there. And it's actually in the editing room as we speak. So I'm super excited for you guys to check that out once it is done. But you know, just talking on the phone about all these future things and how this was gonna look and you know what the bigger picture was gonna be was just shocking to even like process because I was like, wait, we were in like a quarantine and now I'm like gonna possibly direct something. And this whole time I've been doing like freelancing, wardrobe on set, so it all just was like all over the place, right? We ended up shooting Serenity in May. So the whole time from January 2021 to basically May 2021, I was hopping between doing wardrobe on set and PAing. If anyone who doesn't know what a PA is, it's a production assistant. It's short for that. It just means you're assisting all over set. Anyone who needs it, anyone who needs water, you're getting it. If they need a coffee run, you're gonna go get the coffee. If they need like a fan somewhere, you're probably gonna go get that fan. If they need help heavy lifting something because they can't carry it, you're probably gonna end up helping them. So you're kind of all over the place. And it's definitely a tiring job. It's not an easy one. They definitely make you work, but I mean, you really get to experience the set for what it is. And, you know, if you do good, it snowballs into more sets. And that way you're kind of, it's a good way to pay the bills by PAing on different sets because it's very continuous. But it is a lot of work, and you're not essentially kind of doing what you wanted to do on set. So it might be hard to write and do other stuff that you want to do, your work on your projects on the side when you do PA, because it does take up so much time. And a lot of times PAing, there's a chance of it going overtime. So when you do go overtime, you do get paid for overtime, and like it's usually more, but at the same time, you know, you might not be getting back home until 2 in the morning, and you're exhausted, and you might have to be back on set the next day at 8 a.m. So you're most likely not going to want to continue writing your little short story or your little feature script that you had on your laptop. After I shot Serenity, I felt such a high. I felt so good. I was like, I can't believe that I shot Serenity. I literally was able to direct something in the middle of COVID. Like, it was just crazy. It was shocking because I went from literally not being on set at all to being completely dead and dry to doing wardrobe PAing on set to end up directing. So I was very excited about that. It felt like, okay, maybe, you know, I don't have the standard path of like graduating and then going to a studio. Maybe this is how it goes, like very all over the place. You know, I was willing to take the ride essentially. So after that, I ended up going to New York to see my movie Mija in a film festival, which was super amazing and super cool because, like I said, I hadn't seen my film with an audience on a big screen yet. So having that opportunity was amazing. Like, I honestly, like, I wish there was more words than amazing there are, but I'm like, oh, I was so starstruck. Like, it was just really cool to have your project, your film, like something that was just an idea, be in front of a screen, have people react, and have them react the way that you wanted to, or even like unexpected reactions where it's like, oh wow, like, you know, they felt something with that. Like, it was cool. It was a very cool experience and feeling for me, and I hope that I can get that same experience and feeling from my film Serenity that I directed. Shortened it and made into like a trailer slash short story. Like, how can we sell this comic? I'm excited for you guys to see the new type of film that I directed, because usually I direct dramas, but this is more of like an action sci-fi film. So it's definitely something different, something I haven't done before. So I hope it just shows, like, you know, I can direct different styles and not be closed into this box of like only doing drama. So after the whole film festivals and directing Serenity, I was like, okay, I feel good. Like, you know, like, I'm excited, I'm riding this high, right? And of course, whenever you ride a high, a low comes, right? And then summer hit, and summer slowed everything down. I mean, everybody went on vacation, everybody, you know, was out of town, so things slowed down. Productions weren't as steady as I would have liked. So they're slowing down slowly, slowly, slowly. And now I'm doing more like health and safety positions for like COVID. So just making sure, like, I'm basically like on set, just making sure people wear their masks, like people are sticking to it. There's no issues. Making sure everyone got COVID tested before. Even that was slowing down. Like, I just wasn't getting, I don't know, I was just hitting like a dry spell almost. So I decided, okay, you need to update your resume. You need to get your shit together. You can't just be sitting and waiting around. Like, no one's going to knock on your door and be like, hey, I have a job. I have like a set gig waiting for you. As much as we all would love that, it wasn't happening. So editing my resume, putting it all together, making all kinds of different resumes, because not only did I need a resume for, you know, directing, writing, I needed one for wardrobe, I needed a different one for being a production assistant. I had like 6 different resumes. And I was like, oh, literally, like, I can fill in any position, like, just give me a job, you know? And I'm not even joking when I say this, but it took me 2 months of actively looking, searching to find a job. It was not as easy as I thought. You know, I thought a lot of people were like, you know, having the EDD money. So I was like, I'll take the work. But no, it seems like everyone's, you know, back to work, working. It was a really slow process. It wasn't as fast as I thought it was going to be. And I was getting pretty frustrated. Like, if I'm in high school, or every time I had applied myself or had an in-person interview, I would usually get the job. So not getting responses and then seeing like, oh, 300 other applicants apply to this. Like, it was a hard on me. It was a lot. I was like, damn, you know, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to stand out, but like out of these 300 people, like I'm sure everyone, you know, has experience on some type of that and like what makes, you know, me stand out, right? So it was getting to my head a lot. And every day I would try different websites. Like at first I started off with Indeed, I started off with LinkedIn, I started off with Craigslist, like Mandy, like Upwork, like all these different websites, like really trying to broaden my search. And nothing was really sticking, hitting. And then like recently I started nothing was really sticking, nothing was really hitting. So I was just like, I don't know, like, what do I do? Like, you know, is there something else I can do? And then I got the opportunity to do this like reality TV show and like other stuff. So I had other income coming in, like other ways, but it still wasn't like the way I would want it to come in, and it wasn't coming in steady. So I was just like, I don't know if this is really for me. Still kind of like confused, but it was enough to let me kind of float by and like do my thing, just because, you know, I was like, okay, like I can still do my creative side, do my podcast, do my work on different sets, and still have a little bit, and still have some money coming in. So to me, it seemed like it was like working out, even though it wasn't like the ideal situation. And then I started getting pretty comfortable. When I mean comfortable, I mean as in comfortable on the couch, because I started watching a lot of TV, a lot of shows, and I feel like that started soaking up a lot of my time. Instead of, you know, looking for jobs and making different resumes and applying myself, I was getting sucked into different shows and kind of becoming a couch potato. But with that, I feel like I was able to watch a lot of shows, and it really opened my eyes to like what is out there and how amazing and how far we've come. And you know, I was definitely able to watch some stuff. So before I get into all the new shows and the deets about that, I do want to conclude this roller coaster of a story with, I did end up finding a job. Officially finally got a job after. It's so funny because I literally had an interview, and it was not for the job that I ended up getting, but I had an interview and I was like, okay, like, you know, I'm excited, I'm gonna kill it, you know, I'm gonna do this. I had this interview, it's over Zoom, and I had a good feeling about it, you know. I thought we we hit it off. And turns out, you know, like they're like, okay, we'll let you know by the end of the weekend. I think I had the interview on a Thursday, so they said like on Sunday by the end of the weekend I would know. So I was like, okay, cool. And then like Saturday morning comes along, and it was like, oh, it was so great talking to you, you know, but you're not getting the job. And I was like, it must have been so great talking to me, but I still didn't get job. So it was definitely a bummer, not gonna lie, I cried a little bit. I was definitely like, what is happening? Like I just felt so defeated and so sad. I was just like, what? I was like, I've been actively looking, I've been actively trying, I've been doing interviews, I've been like editing my resume, I've been fixing, polishing it up, and still nothing. And I was literally just like laying there, like there was like a meme. I was just like underneath all these pillows, just like buried, just like, like someone help me. So I was just feeling so down about myself, and I was like, I don't think that I'm ever gonna find a job. Like I literally had these thoughts. Like I was just being so dramatic. And then no shit, like not gonna lie, not even joking, like an hour later, as I'm literally applying to jobs, looking for jobs, I get a phone call, and it's like an LA number. I don't recognize the number. I'm like, who is it? There's no caller ID. I answer it. I'm like, hello. And, you know, like I said, I had just gotten rejected from a job. So I wasn't like sounding like, oh, hi, like this is Priscilla. Like I was just like, hello. And they're like, hi, is this Priscilla? And I was like, yes, this is she. And they're like, hey, like we saw your application. We were wondering if you're still available. Like, can you come in for an interview? And I was like, yeah, and turns out this job was located in Burbank, so super close to where I live because I live in North Hollywood. So I ended up working out really nicely. And he was like, "Yeah, can you come in the next hour?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I can." So I, threw on some cute clothes, hopped in the car, made my way over there, and was like, "Hi, I'm here. Like, can I have this job?" No, just kidding. So I basically went there, had my interview, just kind of told them what it was all about, like what my experience was, and like what I feel like I can bring to the team. And everybody was really, really nice. Felt really at home. Like it was like really, really sweet. So I was like, this is awesome. And I guess the interview went well because they hired me, so I ended up getting a job. Yay! So after that happened, I ended up having like an hour training. So it was a pretty quick process. I went literally from like not having a job to crying to getting a job. So it was definitely an emotional roller coaster. But you gotta go through a little bit of struggle, right? And what can I say? I think it was good. I had my first day. I had a great experience. Everybody was really nice. I was able to work on set. Um, it was a really big production. I did have to sign an NDA, so I'm not allowed to talk about it, but it was really cool. And I don't know, I'm really excited and blessed to have this opportunity. But I do just want to end that message with saying if things aren't working out the way that you expected, it's good to just remember, stay positive, keep doing what you're doing, keep trying. It's something's gonna hit, If you apply to like let's say 30 different jobs, eventually one of them will hit. I know it sounds crazy, like, oh, applying to 30 things, and yes, it's time consuming and it does take up a lot of time, but essentially if you put in the work and the time, it will come back around. So I wanted to throw that in there before I end the job hunting segment just because I get it, it's frustrating. It might get you down, it might give you anxiety, it might even cause insomnia, not being able to sleep, just being like, how am I going to be able to pay this bill? Like, being a freelancer, it's risky. It's definitely not like a standard like 9 to 5. And on top of that, we're freelancing in the film industry, so it's even more of a risk. But I think if you don't take risks, then you don't have that greatness. So for anyone who's still actively looking for a job, keep looking. You're gonna get it. It might just be different connections, different opportunities. Don't let that get to you, because your opportunity will come to you and your connections will eventually come in handy to you as well. It's different for everyone. You can't compare your progress with other people, especially in the film industry, because that shit will tear you apart. If you are just sitting there like, oh, why is this person doing that and I'm not? That's a bad mindset. You should be like, how can I be getting, how can my stuff be there? Or how can we be working on my set like that? Or how can we be working together in the future? Think of more in like collaborative way than more of like in a competitive way. And I think that can really get you far. It might sound like, oh, like you're not gonna want to always like work with everyone. Yeah, like you're not gonna want to always work with everyone, and you might not work well with everyone. But if you have a positive mindset and more of like, hey, we can make greatness together, instead of like, I'm gonna make my stuff and you make your stuff and it be more of a competition. I don't know. I feel like that's a better way to approach it. So that's my TED Talk. But now that you guys know I have a job after the long searching of like, I feel like like it actively was searching for like 2 months, but it felt like a year, honestly. It really did. So now moving forward, because like I said, I did have a lot of downtime. So some of the shows that I've been watching that I'm really curious if you guys are watching as well is 90 Day Fiance, The Other Way, 90 Day Fiance, Happily Ever After, or in general, just 90 Day Fiance. I honestly don't know how I haven't done a podcast episode on this show sooner, because it's fucking amazing. You can't make this shit up. I really don't think you can even come up with something scripted like this. Like, it's just so out there that it's like, wow, this shit has to be real, and they're literally capturing it for what it is. So, for example, if you don't know what 90 Day Fiance is, I'm about to change your world and put you on the show, because if you ever are bored and you want to laugh, or if you ever want to just understand why people do things the way that they do, or how people lack common sense, or just anything in general, honestly, that show has it. Like, it's just so entertaining. And if you feel like, oh, I can't like connect to the original 90 Day Fiance, well, they have like literally 8 spin-offs that you can connect to. So if you don't like the original show, you will probably like one of the spin-offs. So essentially what the show started off as was, usually it's an American citizen who falls in love with someone who lives abroad, or overseas, or or in the other side of the country. So they essentially have 90 days to figure out if they are meant for each other and want to get married, because once you get married, then you legally can have that person come live with you in the United States. But before that, you can't. So they would just be here on like a travel visa or work visa or student visa or whatever the case may be. There's a lot going on with that. But essentially, they have 90 days to figure out if that's their person. So it's really interesting because 90 days is not that much. And not only do you think like, okay, like, well, maybe they're like getting to know each other one-on-one every day in like at that person's apartment or place or whatever. And that's not always the case. Like, sometimes these people don't tell like the person coming to the United States, like, hey, I live with my family, or like, I live with my parents, or I don't have this or that. And then they come and they're literally living, like sleeping on the floor while they're here, and they're about to like marry this person. But the person didn't like fail to tell them like, oh, I still live with my parents. So obviously there's huge flaws, huge issues going on already, and you're just watching like with your popcorn, like, what is happening? Like, is this legit? Is this real? Like, are people really doing this? And yes, they are, because I mean, look, there's like 6, 7, 8 seasons, so they're obviously, doing good, and people love watching it. And I'm one of them. I think it's so good. Not only do they switch out, different people, so you're not always watching the same, couple. They usually, find new people that are in the same situation, that are dating people from all over, and that's how the seasons continue. But if you do like a couple and you want to follow up with them and kind of see like, once if they do get married and the other person's moving in, they have their 90 days and it goes well, or it doesn't go well, but they still get married, that happens too. And you still want to follow up with them, you still can by watching the other spinoffs. So they have Happily Ever After, which is all of the couples that survive the first show round, which is 90 Day Fiance. So if you survive that round and you got married and you're in the United States, you are essentially in the happily ever after zone. So it's following the couples after the 90 days, after being married, after, being in the United States. Is it what they expected? Is it what they thought it was going to be? For most of the time, it's not for most people, because they miss their family, they don't have friends, and a lot of people that are from here, they think like, oh, they just want to come to the United States for a green card, which isn't always the case. So it's kind of sad to see like the foreigner, deal with kind of the weight of that. And it definitely seeps into the relationship, because when you constantly have your partner's family members telling like, the person like, oh, they're only there for you, they're only here because they, want to stay in the country, I'm sure it gets to your head, and that's where the fighting and the problems come up. But like I said, you cannot make their drama up. Like, it just is so interesting. Like, for example, another one, there's another spinoff. It's called 90 Days the Other Way. So it's essentially the American citizen going to their lover's country. So right now, it's actually playing right now on TLC. And I think they have one couple where the American goes to India. Then they have another one where they go to Colombia. Then they have one that's in Jamaica, one that's in Turkey, and one, I believe, in Ethiopia. So it's like, how are they adapting to that lifestyle? And it's very different from the United States. And I feel like it's weird, but a lot of these people don't do their research before, and they're kind of just like, yeah, I'll go over there and, see what happens. Like, I'm in love. I'm just going to follow my heart, which is like, yeah, totally follow your heart, do what you want to do, but map where you're going first. Make sure your passport is not expired. Make sure you got money to go. It stresses me out when people spend like all of their life savings on, you know, seeing someone across the world that they've only met once or only know online. It's pretty crazy, but the show, it's apparently pretty common in the show. So, like I said, you have to really experience it for yourself, but it's so entertaining. Um, just when you think like, oh, I've got it figured out, or just when you're kind of getting tired of couples, new ones come in, and I've just been so entertained by it, honestly. Like, it's something I watch every Sunday. I'm like, yay, a new season. And honestly, the spin-offs are just as good as the original. So you don't feel like, oh, only the main franchise is good. Another show that I've been watching is American Horror Story. I really love this show. I started it from, when did it first come out? I don't know exactly when it first came out, but when it did, I was, totally into it. It was a different type of show. Not something that I have seen before, wasn't something I was used to, so it definitely caught my attention and I was into it. And each season is a different theme. They use the same actors and they play different characters, which I thought was really cool because you are familiar with the cast, but they're playing completely different characters each season. So it's like a familiar face, but not. And I think that's what makes that show so unique and special. And not only that, I mean, it's a thriller, it's a scary show, and I feel like there's not too many successful scary thriller shows like that. Or I would say it almost categorizes in the horror section. I do believe, having those elements, I feel like it was set up for success, since the beginning, and I was super into it. So it started off with season one, Murder House, which is actually not too far from where I live. It's about a, let's say, 15-20 minute drive. It's in Korea. It's like by Koreatown. You can find the address online. Like, it's not like this, like, ooh, like you can't go there. People pull up all the time. I'm pretty sure they do like those Hollywood Star tours there. And you can't go into the house or walk up. There's a gate, but you can see it and take pictures. They actually recently shot at that murder house when they were doing the American Horror Stories, which is a little bit different from the original American Horror Story series. So one has it's just story, and the other one is stories. So that's the only difference. And American Horror Stories is just kind of like different stories that they want to throw in there. It's not really following a theme or anything, which is really cool too, because you can just get like different scary stories. But if you are more used to their traditional like format of them sticking to the theme, then I think you'll like this. So like I said, season 1 was Murder House. Season 2 was Asylum, which honestly was my favorite season. To me, it was the most scary freaking season. For me, just the idea of like mental hospitals, like, holding them against your will, like doing shit to your brain, like that's super freaky. So that season really freaked me out. And once I saw that season, I was hooked. I was like, okay, I'm in. I want to watch all the seasons. So after Asylum, I believe it was Coven. Coven was really cool. It wasn't scary to me though. I just thought it was a really cool concept. People don't really do witches that often in that way. And like, it was just really cool. Then we had a Freak Show. Freak Show was definitely unique and different. A freak show that literally goes through the country and performs. And, that was actually something that used to apparently happen back then. I don't know how extreme the freaks were, but the fact that there was something like that is really intriguing. I mean, they're all based off something, right? So, like, essentially, I guess these stories were all based on something real. So it's pretty cool. Was it Hotel or Ragnar? One or the other. I liked Hotel because it was with Lady Gaga. It was really cool to just kind of see her in her element, and she got an Oscar. I don't blame her. She definitely killed it. She really was like that perfect vampire, like sexy vampirina, whatever her role. She was just really cool. And Matt Bomer, chef's kiss on top. They looked so good together. Ragnarok, I didn't really like that one. It was a really weird season. They had a good cast in it, but I just didn't really get how you go from hotel to that, especially like Lady Gaga, her character was like glowing in hotel, and then Ragnar, she was like this dusty like witch or something, and it like just did not fit what she was. It just didn't go with her. I don't know, I just wasn't feeling that season. I feel like that might be the worst rated season if you kind of had to like go by ratings, but who knows? I don't know. Maybe someone else liked it. But me personally, it wasn't my favorite. Honestly, if I'm being a little real, they started to tank after Ragnarok. It was a little bit like, yeah, like, okay, American Horror Story, what are you doing? You might be losing it a little bit. Don't know if like you're back on track. But then they were like, okay, like after COVID, they're like, we got our shit together. We had people writing in the writing room all day. Now we know what we're doing. And I just recently started watching the new season. The new season takes place like in this beach town, and it's mixed with like vampires slash like maybe sea creatures. I'm not sure. We're at a beach town. It could be a possibility, but since it's a double feature, I'm assuming double the trouble, double the horror, double the craziness. I know we have double the cast. A lot of the old cast came back originally, as the seasons had been going on, like by the 6th, 7th, 8th season, not all the original cast was in it like they had, like they were originally. So it was really nice that, season 10, that's essentially almost their last season. I think it's their last season. They're going to have all the original people that were in it come back and be in the show and be in the season. So far, I thought it was really interesting. I was a little like, oh, I don't know, like the whole vampire thing, like, but it's cool because they set it up where this writer and his pregnant wife and his daughter go to the beach. This is kind of a spoiler, so I hope you watched it. If you didn't, pause this, go watch it, come back to me. But they go to the beach. They go to a beach town so that this writer can, write his next big script, right? I guess like that's what you do. You want to have some peace and quiet, like, okay, let your imagination run. So I get that. And on the way there, there's a lot of roadkill, and there's like this really unique, weird bite. It seems very savage. As they say, there are, a couple more days and things start to really come out and show, like the townspeople really start to show who they are. Turns out that this chemist that was studying on people in the military, like she was producing pills, like how to control the dopamine and how to control them in general, made this pill that would make you really, really good at what you do. So if you're like creative, it almost like a limitless pill, but like not as extreme of like you can do everything and open your brain like 100% or whatever. It's more like if you have talent, like that talent would be like times 1,000. You'd be like the best at what you do. Like for example, if I was if I was a really good piano player and I took this pill, it would make me like the Mozart of 2021 or whatever. So that's kind of like the equivalent to that. So when the writer hits writer's block and he just can't seem to get his script going, he takes this pill from one of the local residents that lives there. She's older. She kind of recruits, like she's always like, who's my next prey? And obviously he loves the pill. He kills it. He writes this phenomenal script. Pretty sure they even have like Quentin Tarantino call him in the show, and they're like, oh, we love it. They don't actually show him, but they mention his name. And so this pill is like really doing its job, doing the thing, like, it's like, oh. And so our main character is really excited, and he starts to like be really good at what he is supposed to be good at, right? Writing. But obviously there always comes a consequence. And with this consequence, obviously there are side effects. And with this side effect is that he wants human blood. He gets really thirsty and wants to feed off of a human. So essentially, to be the best, you have to eat human blood or eat flesh. And I guess roadkill won't be enough for you and doesn't taste the same. So it's like you're taking this pill and you're like the best at what you wanted. You're the best at like that creative field that you wanted to pursue, but at the same time, you're out here eating humans. So it's not really a good trade-off. So he's dealing with that while his pregnant wife is like dealing with being pregnant. And at the same time, has a little daughter. She's probably like 8 years old. She's like trying to master the piano. I think it's the piano, right? Or the violin. Sorry, it might be the violin. She's trying to master the violin. She can't. And she gets so frustrated that
she steals one of her dad's pills, not knowing the side effects. So she ends up going through the same thing that he does. So she needs to feed off humans now too. So the mom doesn't know any of this. So it's like shit, right? Like half the family's literally turning into vampires. But what's crazy is, she sold the dad's pill and the mom doesn't know that is even happening to the dad. So it's like the daughter and the dad against the pregnant mom. And that's kind of where I left off as of now on American Horror Story. I've been watching every week. I think I'm one episode behind, but I thought it was really cool that they left off on the daughter taking the pill. She takes it behind the father's back, like she watches. And I think that's really it was good writing, because kids are very sneaky, very observant, even when they're quiet. Like they're probably watching and they're listening. So I thought it was actually really smart for them to include that. Like, she happened to take it by watching and seeing how it makes her dad feel and stuff, and not like, I don't know, some crazy way of like she got it from her dad, or like he was crazy. Like, I don't know. I was just like, okay, that makes more sense. So I'm interested to see where the rest of the show will go. I'm interested to see how they're going to collide and collab this double feature. As of right now, it's all in the beach town. It's very like, it's shot in like a gray style. It's very cool. I don't know when it's going to switch up. Like I get very like the feel of Ozark, like that kind of feel, but like colder. So I'm interested to see when they're gonna mix it in. I think I'm on episode 5 now, so this would be like essentially halfway through the season if they have 10 episodes. So I'm wondering, okay, they're gonna introduce the next the second half of the double feature in the 5th episode, or are they doing like 10 episodes of like being at this beach town, and then I don't know. I have a lot of questions. But I also do know that they did the American Horror Stories, which is, like I said earlier, a bunch of little different stories that are scary. They don't match. They're not linked to each other. I think the first actually 2 episodes, they're back to back. It's like part 1, part 2. But besides that, they don't link. They're all just like different stories. And it's pretty interesting and different. I don't know if they were like scary, but it was just like cool to watch. And, especially with Halloween coming up and getting into the spooky season, it's definitely cool to just check it out and kind of have a different feel of something. Especially since I gave you guys a reality TV option, and not everyone loves reality TV. A lot of people don't like reality TV. So for my people who don't like reality TV, American Horror Story might be, something you'd want to try. It's, they're trying to do something different by doing this double feature. So this could be something that you're into. Another show that I ended up watching that is, I guess it is in the reality TV realm, but it's also in the competition category, because it's called Backyard Bar Wars. Backyard Bar Wars. So it's definitely a funky, long name, a little bit of a tongue twister, but it has a cool concept. It's about people who live in the Los Angeles area. They have, a pretty decent sized backyard, but never had the chance to do anything with it. And essentially they have their host come, and it's you competing with either your neighbor or your friend. You guys both have cool houses, or you guys both have the backyard space for it to have a whole bar be transformed there. And you essentially meet with the host, and you're like, okay, they give you a twin brother. They're both contractors, and they're like, okay, this contractor is going to help you have your vision come to life. Whatever you want, just let them know. And so, for example, let's say I was the one getting my backyard done. One girl was like, oh, I want like an Arabian Nights theme. So everything was very like Aladdin themed, like nice teal fuchsia colors and silk, and like a hookah that like wasn't actually a hookah, but it like poured out a shot. And then like nice comfy squishy pillows like they could like sit into, like, and fireplace, just like really cool setup. And you have to come up with your own signature drink. And the other competitor, she did like a Mexican cantina, which turned out really cute. She had a really good Paloma mixed drink. So your friends come over after you have this bar designed, and they rate your bar by how good they think it is, like look wise, like comfort, style, everything. And even your drink, they rate it. So it's all based off of your friends. So you win $10,000 and a whole makeover, which is pretty cool for a competition show where you're literally just getting everything done. Like, I'm like, you don't have to put in any work yourself. That's pretty lit. Like, I guess the only work you have to do is make your own drink, which I'm like, you don't gotta pay me to do that. So yeah, I just think that would be a cool competition show for you guys to check out. It's different. It's on True TV, American Horror Stories on Hulu and FX, and 90 Day Fiance is on TLC. I'm gonna do a episode on Bachelor in Paradise because that's where the real tea's at. We have to talk about all the hotties, all the singles, what the hell is going on with all these people going on the show trying to be influencers. They're not even trying to be there for love anymore, which is like, I get they're not all really like trying to fall in love, but at least try and fake it. And what is up with everyone already meeting before the show, and it's like already having these relationships, and it's like doesn't make the show that much interesting. But it is cool that they're switching hosts every week, and I feel like, you know, they've had to adapt a lot since not having Chris Harrison as the host anymore. And I feel like that's a huge thing to talk about. So I definitely want to dedicate a whole episode to talking about Bachelor in Paradise, Chris Harrison not being the host anymore, what is up with the idea of the contestants meeting before and having relationships before, and what is up with switching up the host, and how do we feel about the host? So I'm definitely excited to cover that with you guys. I think that's something I have to do with a friend because there's too much gossip and too much tea that I legit can't cover it all in myself. So make sure to tune in. If not next, make sure to tune in soon for that episode. But thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to my crazy roller coaster emotional story of finding a job. And like I said, do not get frustrated if you do not find a job right away. Sometimes finding a job doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it doesn't even happen in a 2-month span. So just stay positive. What's meant to happen is meant to happen. Keep looking, and don't forget that a lot of these people in the industry that like made it big or are big, they always had a second job to support themselves, just until they can get on their own feet and, you know, figure it out. So don't be too hard on yourself if you're picking up a second job or doing some side gigs. You know, just strive to be great and do as much as you can, and, you know, do it at your own pace. Don't compare yourself to anyone. Everyone's different, especially in the film industry. Like, I just feel like you can't compare creative filmmakers like that. So I hope this gives a little bit of positive vibes to anyone who's job searching. I know that 2020 hasn't made it easy. I know 2021 hasn't been that much easier, but positive vibes. Just do your part. I'll do my part, and I'll see you guys next week.